How many of you know about Limewire? Probably not many of you, since it's so old that even I didn't ever actually use it, but Limewire was the premier piracy app. You'd go on it, download an MP3 of your favorite song, and it would download a completely different song because the guy you downloaded it from was actually the copyright owner of the song on a mission to ensure you paid for Poker Face by Lady Gaga. There's a bit more to the whole world and lore of Limewire, but for the sake of this video, all you need to know is it was essentially the go-to place for any and all things illegally downloadable via peer-to-peer downloads. It would wind up being shut down in 2010 for copyright infringement, which was one of the leading factors to a new landscape of the internet that split up places for piracy instead of having a more central sort of place for it. Granted, there are still plenty of wildly popular places for illegally downloading today, taking advantage of legal loopholes or by literally physically dodging the law, but Limewire was the home for piracy for over a decade, since unlike apps like Napster, it would be much more successful in avoiding a shutdown. Until 2010 anyways. I bring all of this up to draw the parallel that in March 2026, VR lost its first Limewire. The central hub for piracy in VR has been, admittedly completely rationally and fairly, shut down for good. VR pirates and their tool, Rookie Sideloader, has been DMCA'd and wiped off the internet. Now, for those of you who missed their chance, Rookie Sideloader was a tool for making piracy on MetaQuest as easy as possible. Considering the headache that pirating on Quest normally is, having an easy way to get in was actually a really useful feature. Not that I ever used it, of course. I would never pirate anything ever that is illegal. You should pay for any and everything and be good law-abiding citizens. I think that about covers everything legally. Let's get on with it. I looked into the idea of Quest piracy before Rookie was around and widely known, and came out very confused. I probably could have figured it out if I gave enough of a shit, but given I didn't really care about Quest games like that, I never bothered looking back into it just to experience something small like Jurassic World Aftermath, and I was fully willing to pay for the big releases like Resident Evil 4, since the price was absolutely excellent for what you were getting, and not many big VR games really released as exclusives anyways. This was also during the Quest 2 era, where meta seemed on top of the world with no signs of stopping. But as time went on and more big titles dropped like Iron Man and, well, that's kind of it, I gave it another glance and came across the legendary Rookie Sideloader. Instantly, I thought it was too good to be true, with how extraordinarily simple installation and setup was, but I gave it a try anyway, crossed my fingers that my PC wasn't about to be laced with malware, and voila! Everything worked and I was in. And wow, was it magical. It wound up being so damn easy to use that I would actually start using my Quest more to play VR games more than my PC just because of how much easier it was to pirate something new. And it was an experience that would actually lead me to buying games I really liked on Steam as well. Compound VR was a game that had a bit of a steep price, and I was unsure if I'd like it, so I originally pirated it. And then I fell in love with it, which led me to ultimately buying it on PC so I could get all of the lovely benefits of playing on Steam, like updates, achievements, etc, etc. It was pretty much a perfect scenario for me. I'd like to mention my thoughts here about the morality of piracy. I know I just explained how I have done and liked it, but honestly, you shouldn't pirate games if you can afford them. My personal take is that Valve is completely correct in saying piracy is a service problem. If a game doesn't offer what I want for a price I'm willing to pay, I won't buy it. I legally own hundreds of games on a bunch of different platforms, and I'm happy to give my money to developers who respect the consumer to a bare minimum degree. But when a game has glaring flaws that I can't look past, I'll pirate it as a way to try it, and if I don't deem the experience worth my money, it doesn't get it. You don't have to agree with my stance. I completely respect and understand that some people believe you should pay for every game no matter what. Even if it's a game like Rayman Legends on PC, where pirated players get a better experience than people who legally own the game because of bullshit like Ubisoft Connect. Which, by the way, I happily bought Rayman Legends and just used a pirated copy to play it because I love the game so much that even with its glaring flaw, the game itself was good enough to earn my money for the benefits of owning the game on Steam, like achievements and playtime tracking. Now, there's an important reasoning for why I'm mentioning why someone like me who does pirate stuff is willing to pay for stuff as well. Gabe Newell's infamous stance on piracy is this.
What's Valve's take on piracy?
Piracy to us, so we don't really worry about piracy, and the reason that we think that we don't have issues with piracy is that there's misconceptions in the industry about what piracy is. There's assumption that what is piracy? Piracy is about people want to steal stuff from you, right? That they don't want to pay any money and they want to get your content. But when you look at the fact that these people have, $2,000 PCs and, they're spending $50 a month US more on their internet connections, clearly they're willing to spend money. So from our point of view, what we saw more and more is that piracy is the result of bad service.
I believe Rookie Sideloader to be another prime example that he's completely right. I could have pirated most of the games I did on Quest on my PC, but because it was so much easier to just use Rookie to download those games, I found myself doing that for the ease of use it brought me. I don't really feel comfortable buying games on the Quest store anymore. With how shaky the entire OS is, and with bugs and updates that have made games unplayable at times, this has directly led to my rate of Quest purchases going down a whole hell of a lot. My last purchase on the standalone Quest store with my own money was Thrill of the Fight 2 in 2024. And it was only $9. If I didn't get Batman Arkham Shadow for free from a Quest 3S meta sent to me containing the game, my account would probably never legally own it. If it was on Steam, I would have happily bought it and probably gifted it to a bunch of my friends because it's that good, and I feel comfortable and confident in buying games on Steam. Hell, even if it was on the Oculus PC store with cross-buy, I would have happily bought it, just for the sheer fact that getting to easily install it on my PC is worth the money. I really like Deadpool VR as well, but buying a game on Quest feels like investing in a sinking ship, with any game you buy being locked to the Quest ecosystem and very, very rarely having cross-buy. So I just waited for games to show up on Rookie. I used to feel comfortable in the Quest ecosystem. I used to buy VR games on Quest despite having them on PC already, just for the general comfortability of having a portable version of some VR games I really liked. I used to buy games on the Oculus PC store for the better performance using the Oculus API on Oculus native headsets. I had no problem spending $40 on Resident Evil 4, and I had to have no problem spending that kind of money on Deadpool if it came out during that time period. I would happily spend that money if I had as much faith in Meta's ecosystem as I did before, but I don't anymore. One of my biggest driving factors for getting a Steam VR native headset was so that I could just buy my VR games on Steam without having to pick between missing out on performance or having my games stuck to only Oculus and Meta headsets. On standalone, I felt more comfortable having games locally sideloaded to the thing after they announced they were going to start cracking down on piracy more, so that if the Quest store explodes one day, I wouldn't get stuck in some weird licensing problem or some other potential problem that totally could happen given the disaster that is the whole Quest store. But piracy on Quest isn't as easy as it used to be, and for me, pretty much isn't an option I'd seriously consider. Rookie Sideloader has officially been shut down, and all of this isn't to say that's a bad thing. It makes sense and is actually mostly a good thing to get rid of the biggest source of piracy. But Rookie shutting down doesn't mean that I, or mostly anyone else, is going to start buying a bunch of games on the Quest store because it's the only way to get to play them. It just means I won't use my Quest nearly as much anymore. It just means I'll be more interested in seeing how to get these Quest exclusives working on the Steam frame, where they could be properly preserved without a worry of Meta getting in the way. People are going to find ways to pirate games no matter what. All Meta can really do is make that harder. But instead of exemplifying efforts and just shutting down piracy sites and avenues, they should also improve the service they're offering so that piracy isn't nearly as enticing. Pirating a game on PC is so fucking easy, and with other tools, it's even possible to play them online. But for the most part, the ease of use, comfort, reliability, and just general confidence I have in buying a game on Steam leads to me happily buying games on Steam. Even outside of piracy, Epic Games will offer a game for free on their shitty storefront, but I genuinely prefer to either pay for the game on Steam or straight up pirate it instead, even though there's a free, completely legal version sitting right there for me. Meta has mostly gotten away with this because they're sort of the only standalone VR store you can buy from. But that is rapidly changing, with the Steam Frame being the first generation standalone Valve headset that runs Steam and essentially forces cross-buy. They're not going to have it so easy anymore and seriously need to step up their game if they want to keep competing in this market. And now if we take a look at the Quest Store, where a game available on the Oculus PC Store won't even give you a free version on Quest unless the developer specifically enables cross-buy, I just don't see them surviving in a future market without some serious change. They also just invested an insane amount of money in a metaverse, and now it's being shut down. So who's to say the Quest Store won't suffer the same fate if Meta has a bad enough year? It already seems like they're pushing towards smart glasses instead of VR now, and the Quest 1 is already practically an offline-only headset right now as is. Granted, I don't think this will happen anytime soon, but it totally could within the next decade, and because of that, I typically try to avoid buying games on Quest. Rookie showed me what the experience on Quest could be if I invested into the store, right down to the theoretical end where I could lose the ability to reinstall my games one day. So unless Meta can fix up their ecosystem, bring some confidence to the consumers, I and many others will simply avoid buying games on Quest as much as possible, and I hope Meta realizes that and invests in improving as a service and not just shutting down piracy sites. Because if they don't, their true problem won't ever be solved. There will be more options for pirates eventually. There will be other ways to access the current library of Quest exclusive games on other platforms one day. Little Robert will be able to play Batman Arkham Shadow on some other headset one day, and because of this, the only true way to beat piracy is to simply be better. One way to accomplish this is to do what consoles do and release new games behind new hardware, so piracy methods have to start from zero each generation, but considering Meta just shut down a bunch of their major game studios, I certainly wouldn't count on that one happening. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one where I talk about a bunch of VR games that were released semi-recently. They're all pretty great with some beyond Scambox shaped exceptions. You can also get 10% off the entire Quest store using the link in the description if you personally are willing to buy games on Quest and find them worth it for you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one, fat bitches. Lops and kisses!